Alrighty, you folks made it to the end of day one at AWE 2021. Yeah. Pretty awesome first day, huh? I've been in this room all day and the different conversations, just incredible and all XR specific, but just the range of conversations, it's amazing. It's great to be a part of this thing. Okie dokie. Hart is a CEO and founder of 2020 CV Incorporated, a company that specializes in the creation of augmented reality experiences using machine learning and computer vision. Hart has been creating software for almost 30 years. Wow, that's something. With a self-taught background and a passion for bringing new ideas to life. 2020 CV was founded in 2017 and is backed by Mark Cuban. Here's Hart.
Yeah, me too. Hi, my name's Hart Woolery, and welcome to my Netflix comedy special. I know Netflix actually has a pretty low bar for content, but if they put me on there, I'm sure they'd pull the plug sooner than later. I don't think I would live up to even that low bar. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really a speaker. But I was invited to this conference, so what the hell, I'll just give it a shot. I tend to kind of shy away from the bright lights. I like literally, like if somebody opens the curtains in my office, I'm like, but yeah, the last time I was actually talking at a conference was almost 10 years ago, maybe a little over 10 years ago, I want to say. And it's kind of a funny story, and maybe the reason they never invited me back. I was giving a talk at Adobe, and this was for Adobe. It was called Adobe Apollo at the time, which eventually became Adobe Air, which is like a desktop version of Flash. So yes, I've been developing long enough to know what Flash is, and so I was demonstrating these like desktop widgets on for their platform, and I had the rookie idea to go ahead and use live data for my presentation. So I had one of the widgets was a Twitter widget on your desktop that would just pop in random tweets onto your screen. And I don't know what the parental guidance rating of this conference is, but I can't even say what the first tweet was that popped in. I'll just basically censor it out. It was beep him in the beep. And like after that, it's like I just froze, and I was like, there's no recovering from this. But the audience got a kick out of it, and so it's been like a decade since they've invited me to talk, and I'd like to think that was part of the reason. So yeah, never use live data. With that being said, my entire presentation is going to be using live data from Twitter on the most controversial topics. I'm joking. So really I'm here today to kind of talk about creating AR experiences and what it takes to go from an idea to something that's actually out there in the world, and trying to get an audience, and these other elements that it takes to kind of build these augmented reality experiences. And let me go to the next slide here. So yes, this is my intro. I started this company in 2017, which was really a good time to start a company around AR, because you had ML kit, machine learning, coming into Apple. You had AR kit just in its infancy. You had really mobile machine learning was just kind of getting going then, and that's kind of what I started this company around. So the first kind of thing I built around AR was a virtual hand puppet. So you'd move your hand like this, and the puppet would start talking. And since then, I've built kind of other silly ideas. You can see the lightsabers was a popular one, talking dogs, very serious things. I actually think the talking dogs one is like a gold mine if somebody really nails that, like Snapchat or TikTok or somebody. Because my kids like watch Air Bud and all those talking dog ones, and I'm telling you, like whoever figures that out, that's going to be like the next big thing in AR. So what makes for a great experience? Give me 1 second here. So most everything I've built in AR kind of shares these 3 circles of trust. Have humor, art, and engineering. And I try and kind of aim for that central area. I consider myself somewhere between a clown and an engineer, I think. I'm not too strong on the artistic side, but I make my attempts. And so I think that, if you can incorporate these kind of 3 ideas into your AR experiences, they really help allow people to relate to them and enjoy them. So the first one was humor. You can see me picking my nose here. Never thought it'd come the day where I'd be doing this in public, but here we are. So I think why humor is important in AR is because humor lowers the user's expectations into whatever you're bringing into the environment. Whereas if you're trying to make something useful, you're raising their expectations. So, especially if it's something where if it goes wrong, it's a problem for the user. That's why humor is a great thing to have, because humor can go wrong and it just gets funnier. I don't think AR is fully ready for utility and being useful yet, but it's definitely advancing at a rapid pace, and we're seeing more and more useful tools come out of it. And the last part of that is that humor is universal. It doesn't matter, where you are, especially if you're developing an AR experience, because you don't need to have it in a certain language. It doesn't, need anything other than the visual content, which pretty much anybody around the world can appreciate. The second piece of that was art. So I think that AR really allows us to kind of express our creativity and imagination in a way that isn't possible with a lot of other mediums. And one of the elements to that is that AR allows us to create our own experience from the creator's perspective, but also the user can have their own individual dynamic experience with that art. So, the way we enjoy it doesn't have to be the way somebody else enjoys it. And it's a little bit different than, say, like a static painting where we're all seeing pretty much the same thing. AR can bring, new elements into that, like where are they filming it, who's in the picture, what's the environment there, and it's really an infinite realm of possibilities when they open up that AR filter. And lastly, I think that art inspires us to share our experience with other people, and that's important when you're trying to gain an audience and have your content that you've created appreciated by millions of people around the world. And the last piece was engineering, and I really, I think this is where I'm strongest in terms of my abilities, but I think it's the least important in terms of building content as a creator. And so one of the elements of that is the AR is very young, and it's a, sorry, it's 1 second. There's just new possibilities every time something is developed and released in this scene. So it really, everything we develop can be something new and novel. And I think that's what makes an experience great, is when it's unique and new, and it's not something we've seen 1,000 times. It's something we're seeing for the first time. And to that point, really when you're engineering a new solution, I think that ultimately you want the engineering side of it to be invisible to the end user. It's just under the hood. They can appreciate the art and humor and whatever else goes in the lens, but they really don't care about the engineering side of it at all, which is sad but true. So second part of this short talk was about building it. There's my 3 Twitter followers that like my posts down there. So what does it take to draw an audience to what you've created? And I've definitely had both successes and failures in this regard. And so I have a little bit of experience dealing with both and kind of figuring out what makes a AR experience work and what makes it kind of crash. So this is one of the favorites, fan favorites. So in terms of simplicity, you want people to be able to understand what you've created without really having to do anything other than look at it. So really the understanding comes within the first few seconds. Like you can see this handy hands filter over here and really understand what it does within 2 seconds of me demonstrating it. And in order to enable those kinds of experiences, I think people should stay away from text or instructions if possible, because A, nobody really reads instructions ever, and B, it's just, it reduces your audience, it reduces the amount of fun people have with it, and it just takes more time for people to engage with it or learn how to engage with it. So the last piece of that is, I call or I don't call it, people call it, like the 2-year-old test or the mom test. Can a kid understand it? Can your mom understand it, or grandma, or whoever? And I think that's really important when you're developing AR experiences, is to build things that anybody at any level, any age, any metric you want to choose can understand it and use it. So another thing that I think draws audiences is their ability to remix whatever you've created into something new. So as I mentioned before, the creator has some idea of what they've created, like, oh, I've created this beautiful face filter that's unique and novel, and then somebody ends up using it on their dog and it starts trending and everybody's using it on their dog and nobody cares anymore about the actual face filter. It's like, who can get their dog to use it the best? So it's great when that happens, because it shows that people are taking what you've created and it's got bigger bounds than you've anticipated. And so I think when you're creative, that enables other people to get creative as well with what you've built. And the last piece was the impossible. I've always thought of AR effects as kind of recreating special effects from Hollywood. I grew up with Star Wars and the Muppets and all these different special effects that kind of inspired me to create a lot of the lenses you see. And I think the best lenses are ones that empower you in new ways and kind of turn you into a superhero. I think AR is also just a new way for, or a way that people can wow other people. So, like I said before, there's so many possibilities of so many new ways to create new experiences for people that there's always going to be these wow moments. Every month, new filter is going to go viral because, you look at some of Snapchat's biggest successes, like the anime filter, or the one that turns you from young to old or old to young. Those are just new ways to show us Hollywood special effects within the realm of your phone. And so I said this was going to be a short talk. Yeah, I should have just filled this whole thing with memes. It would have been funnier. So my final advice in terms of creating AR experiences is be creative, try to inspire other people with your creations, and don't be afraid to laugh at yourself. And I think that all 3 of those are kind of silly ways to express just being creative, but I think in the end, that's really what's going to drive engagement in AR is people building new things. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Hart. So we do have a Q&A section or session or section at the end of the session. I'm totally spent, people. I'm sorry. If anybody has any questions, the microphone's right there.
Hello.
Hello. Great talk.
Thank you.
Quick question. What are your thoughts on prototyping AR experiences, especially that these are three-dimensional experiences? Do you work with any like Play-Doh or paper or use virtual reality tools like Tilt Brush or Gravity Sketch?
Yeah, I think it's really just comes down to whatever pops in my head, and so I kind of take it from just something that's in my imagination to the actual filter. But I do, at times get inspired by the physical world and crafts and stuff. Like I have 2 young kids, and they're playing with Legos and drawing and, doing all kinds of creative things that you kind of forget about as you get older. And I kind of take those elements as inspiration and use them. Like I was talking earlier with several people about how my kids will come up to my computer while I'm working, and they'll be in the like, for example, in Lens Studio, there'll be a camera feed showing what I'm creating, and they know where it is, so they just walk into the camera and start moving like this, and they'll see the experience draped on them. So I think my kids are definitely one source of inspiration for building dumb ideas. Any other questions? Go.
Hi. You were talking about instructions. That's something that's really hard for me, especially if you have an experience where there's multiple things that you can do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some things that you do to kind of help?
I think one of them is just being able to have, I do, for example, on Twitter, I have a lot of, I'll share these ideas just by posting a video of myself using it, and that's kind of the instruction. And then in the same sense, there'll be kind of a lot of these platforms have preview videos that you can have, and so I think it's essential that you can kind of capture the experience inside of that short 2-second preview or whatever, 10-second preview, whatever the limit is. But sometimes things you build are more complicated, and really it's just a matter of being able to being conscious about what kind of text you're putting in front of the user. I think simple instructions are fine in a lot of cases, but really just depends on how complex whatever you're developing is.
Hi, great talk. My name's Frank I'm a PhD student from Arizona State. I really like those apps that you developed, and they look like a lot of fun, and I would like to try and build them myself. I was wondering if those finger tracking was a public API, or you built it yourself, or?
It's not public, and one thing I often tell people that come to me with a similar question is that a lot of the experiences I developed with machine learning models, they're tailored to a specific movement, so they're not generalized tracking models. For example, like the hand puppet is just kind of built to track this movement, but if you turn your hand completely around, it might not track it as well. So for those kinds of applications, I recommend looking into the models that Google has built with MediaPipe and the other publicly available machine learning models out there for developing whatever you want to develop.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.